Hey everybody, this preseason there's been a lot of criticism regarding one player, Alex Leatherwood. Alex Leatherwood, the Oakland Raiders offensive lineman. Note I didn't say offensive tackle or offensive guard because he's played both in his short time with Silver and Black. Look, I wasn't one who was in favor of Alex being drafted in the first round, but he was. And Mike Mayock apparently believed that his versatility, being able to play either guard or tackle, would benefit the Raiders. Um, and for the most part, that's been true, although not in exactly the way one would expect. Okay. In the NFL, it's great to have a person who can go back and forth, from guard to tackle or even play center, right? But ideally, you want someone who's specialized at one position, who's really, really good at that position because of how complicated the game can get with respect to offensive schemes one wants to run and so on. So, for example, you don't want a guy who is so flat-footed tackle that he can't pull at guard. Well, of course, Alex Leatherwood doesn't have that problem. But the question is, what is wrong with Alex Leatherwood? And I'm going to start this vlog with this simple philosophy. How, if a person is really, really good in college, and then all of a sudden the pros, they immediately start showing problems in the NFL, it generally has to do with what the coaches are asking that person to do. In other words, it's the coach's fault. Also, let's not forget that in the NFL, you're going up against the best of the best. And the coaches have to be mindful of putting you in the right position to get the best out of you to go up against the best and to realize the best performance. So to the extent that Alex Leatherwood is not performing well, it really is the coaching staff's fault. And let me explain what I mean. I can pick out a number of plays that show what I'm about to demonstrate, but let's go here. This is from the Patriots game. And I'm actually going to start with a play that doesn't feature Leatherwood making a mistake. I'm going to start with a play that shows the basic problem that is impacting how Leatherwood performs. It's this pass blocking. The Raiders are asked to retreat. Raiders offensive asked their offensive linemen to retreat too quickly and give up too much ground. And so what happens is that they get pushed back and give up a sack, or at least are put in a position where they wind up pressuring the passer to a greater degree than one would want. Here's 1st and 10, third quarter with 9:40 remaining against the Patriots this evening. Here's the play. All right there. Stop it. Okay. Look at this depth. Look at what they're doing. They're giving up a lot of ground, but they're not using, with the exception of 78. But as a whole, the Raiders players are not push pass blocking, which is a style that I favor that was popularized by Dan Rakatovich when he was the offensive line coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers during the 70s. And so what happens is that because the Raiders offensive line is not doing that as a unit, you only have two people doing it. All right. One of them actually is the tight end after he releases, so he doesn't really count. What happens is that because they're not using their arms to keep the defenders away from them and pushing them back as they try to rush the passer, they get past the offensive linemen really quick at points and are able to rush in like that, and this is the result. Okay? So Garber is fleet-footed enough to get out of it, or almost get out of it, and at times he doesn't and gets stopped. And gets stopped. So this problem of how the line is asked to block works against Leatherwood because he is the most greatly scrutinized player on the organization and has been in that position and has been since he came in because people thought he was drafted higher than he should have been taken. Not his fault. Not his fault. Now let's look at what he did in college by contrast. That's a tackle, right? But let's take a look here at guard, all right? This is Leatherwood, but let's take a look at this gentleman presents Alex Leatherwood at guard, okay? And I make sure the volume here is turned down. It is, okay? And he talks about Leatherwood being, look at that. Look at that run, that violent run blocking, okay? That's what he was known for. He's moving people out of the way. He pancakes this guy. And there are many plays like this with Leatherwood at guard. Leatherwood was asked to play guard in 2018, and he excelled. When Leatherwood came to the Raiders, he was asked first to play tackle, but that wasn't going so well under the Gruden regime even. So what did they ask him to do? Move to guard, and he got better grades within the context of what they were asking him to do. So now here comes the McDaniels regime. They're moving him back to tackle, and so no surprise there since he didn't do as well. He's not performing as well. But on top of that, the Raiders are asking Leatherwood to block in an almost 1970s style of pass blocking that asks him to give up a fair amount of ground. And I call it's a child of air raid pass blocking, but he's not putting down an anchor foot, okay? I'll just say it. The coaches are not teaching him how to pass block in a way that gets the best out of him. They just aren't, all right? Now, run blocking, different story. The pass blocking is the problem. And it's where he's asked to do this retreating all too often, okay? All too often. And they wonder why. Now, what they have to do is look at what they're asking the offensive linemen to do as a whole. Because I'm telling you, if they don't get this fixed, it's going to be a long season. All right, and all the predictions and accolades and wishes for the season to start to see how Derek Carr, Devontae Adams work together are going to be all for naught because of this offensive line problem, this technique problem that's going to impact everybody. They've got to play tighter, closer, and that's the coaches that have to do that. And the coaches really need to evaluate what they're asking the players to do from a timing perspective and say, are we putting in the right position to make blocks without getting knocked on the keister? And the answer is no. You have to remember something. The offensive linemen are not drawing these techniques up in the dirt. They're not freelancing. The coaches are asking them to block in a certain way. I repeat, the coaches are asking them to block in a certain way. So for Alex Leatherwood to be held out as not doing well, put him on the trade block, and then people come in like this NFL writer with the New York Post who said that Mayock had picked, that the Raiders' defense consisted of players that Mayock picked who he did so while he was on a vodka cranberry binge, which basically says that Mike Mayock is an alcoholic and also is completely wrong. Uh, it's ridiculous. All right, and uh, and not only that, if you think about that criticism, the reason why it's wrong is because the players that are playing on the third quarter and the fourth quarter are players that David Ziegler, as general manager, put in, not Mayock. But what happens is that because he's an NFL writer, someone's going to see that on Twitter and think that this guy is absolutely right, rather than out of his gourd, completely wrong and off base and playing around with a defamation of character lawsuit with respect to Mike Mayock. You know, ridiculous stuff. You know, we have in this environment so many people just writing crap. It makes it harder to swim down below the surface and really get to the heart of what's the problem is, because everybody wants the quick answer. More often than not, the answer isn't quick, and it's also detailed and time consuming. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm actually going back as I talk. I'm sort of buying time to go back to another part of the play, but also I may take time to point to you an organization that has better offensive line blocking, and the Patriots. Uh, the Patriots, sure, they gave a couple of sacks, but they asked Matt Jones to play out of an empty formation quite a bit of the time. And I'm very impressed with their style of blocking. It's really effective. And the only problem with the Patriots, as I see it, is their defense. But I think that the Patriots are more in the mode of tuning up on an individual basis than strategic game planning. So I'm not going to, as long as they have the fundamentals down, I'm not going to, I'm not ready to sound the alarm on the Patriots at this point, unlike others. Um, but here I found a play that this is exactly what I want to show you. Again, this is another problem with the Raiders asking you. This is 3rd and 7. All right. And here, and it's this retreat pass blocking they have. There's Leatherwood. See how they're poised and they're getting ready to move back, right? So this is what happens. Here it is. See how he moves back? You see, Leatherwood is not asked to go out and get the lineman. Okay? He's just moving back, all right? And then that happens. Let's see, if he were to go out and get the lineman and put his hands out on him early, that wouldn't happen. But this is occurring. This is occurring because of what the coaches ask him to do. And then take a look at the set. All right? You see how 97 is out there on the edge here, like that? All right? So Leatherwood is not taught to, when he snaps, go out and get him. It's like it's almost a zone where he's saying, well, let me watch and see if somebody's coming into my zone before I go here. So they've got to go man, and they have to have a halfback pick up on the way out, but they don't have that, all right? They don't. Okay, so here we go. You see, they don't even have the back chipping. There's no chip, all right? If that's a chip, that's lousy. This is the fault of the coaching staff. This is the fault of the coaching staff. This is the fault of the coaching staff. It also means that their line splits are too narrow. They need to breed them out by about 2 inches. And then again, as I say, play it hat on hat. Center gets tackle. Tackle gets end. All right, center gets tackled. Look what happens. Look at where. All right, look at where you have the guard. Right, center gets tackle. All right, guard should get tackle in this case, but he's watching the linebacker in case of that. Right, so Leatherwood should be free to go out here. They're not telling him to do that. I'm not criticizing what Leatherwood is doing. I'm saying the coaches are giving him the wrong instructions. He's not out there to freelance. He knows that. That's why it's so frustrating for him to get this criticism, because he's only doing what he believes the coaching staff is asking him to do. All right? He's only doing what he believes the coaching staff is asking him to do. And again, he wasn't the only person who exhibited problems because of that style. Look at the other side. Look at the other side. See, here comes number 79. And he gets out better. Why? Because in that case, the end over there had to literally move around the tight end who was releasing, which gave the offensive tackle an advantage. See, there's the tight end on the wing here, right? So he becomes an obstacle that the defensive end has to go around and going out. And that gives the tackle some time to catch up. See, look, see that? All right, here he comes rushing. All right, boom. Okay, boom. But then again, and his stance is not quite where it should be. Why? Because again, they are asked to basically stay in a lane and let the defenders come to them rather than going out to get them, rather than going hunting. So don't blame Alex Leatherwood for this problem. This is on the Raiders coaching staff. Trading Leatherwood would be a statement of scapegoating. And if they're going to do that, I have to say I am not a fan of the McDaniels regime to go off and do stuff like that. And don't take out your bad coaching on the player. Admit that your coaching is bad, fix the problem immediately, and then move forward, and then keep the player. All right? I mean, Alex Leatherwood is not a bad player. This is an Outland Trophy winner in college from Alabama. This is a man who has had his fair share of great plays against great players. So I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it one bit. So this is on Coach McDaniels. His coaching staff, the offensive line staff, has to meet with the offensive coordinator and work on a better coordination between pass blocking depth and pass pattern with an eye towards shortening the path between the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman. And saying, hey, look, you're going to have to sick them. Go after them. Subscribe to Zinni62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com. Thanks.